Hey everybody, and welcome to RPG Horror Stories with D&D Doge. In today's video, we have a story about a dungeon master that keeps putting the party in unwinnable situations, a story about a player that doesn't quite understand female anatomy, and much more. But before we get into those, here's Nipsey and Alice playing with their new toy to get our wholesome levels up a bit before we bring them right back down again. There we go. Now I think we are ready to get into these stories. A vent on my dissatisfaction with my playgroup, or how the party keeps getting robbed. By Reddit user, Nair1230. I have been playing D&D in a campaign started by my brother-in-law since November of last year. We play off and on, usually with 2 weeks between each session, but sometimes longer as we lost a player in May, and then there was some scheduling conflicts. When we first started playing, I was excited because I've had multiple opportunities to play D&D, but they've all fallen through after or before the first session. I initially wanted to play a simple martial class, like a barbarian or a fighter, for my first time, because I didn't want to juggle the responsibility of spell slots. But the other players convinced me to roll up a bard instead. So I did. Our recent mission tasked us with transporting an item that we were not allowed to look at to the next large city over. In the process, our carriage and horse fell into a sinkhole. We were attacked by bandits who took the item that we were transporting, and a torrential rainstorm started. That night, after struggling to rescue the horse from the sinkhole, we were still hours away from civilization, with no transport, and low on HP and spells, so we decided to make camp. During the night, we were attacked again, in our tents, by hags, after multiple party members failed perception checks. Our cleric nearly died, and all of our money, food, shiny objects, and spell components were stolen. A new party member joined the following session, and we were able to retrieve and repair the carriage, but were unable to find our carriage driver, who had gone missing during the bandit attack. On the way to the town, to hopefully track down our carriage driver and stolen cargo, we were attacked again by first hyenas and then gnolls at a severe disadvantage because we couldn't cast spells without components. We get to the town and find the first inn we can, which is run down but owned by a goblin NPC that the party imprints on. So in an effort to recoup what we've lost and help the goblin, we offer to have me perform the following night and spread word around town to drum up business. We ask the goblin NPC to get supplies for the party, and we'll talk to the townspeople and go to the market. We go to the market and trade some of our valuables and items that weren't stolen, so we can get some food and spell components back. On the way back from the market, we find the beaten, unconscious body of the goblin NPC. Two party members decide to track down the attacker and murder hobo them to try and get the supplies that the goblin bought back, while the other party members escort the goblin back to the inn to get ready for the party. Those of us at the inn have the challenge of making working food and drink for customers out of almost no supplies. There's moldy, diseased ale, and food in the inn stores. The cleric is able to purify the food, and we were able to set up a filtration system to clean out the ale. In fairness, we charge dirt cheap for the ale and food, but the dungeon master says that there are a lot of customers, to the point where people are coming behind the counter and stealing ale at several points. One of our party members works security, and when it becomes clear that the inn is becoming overcrowded, my character asks him to start charging a 2 copper cover charge for anyone who comes in. The time comes for my character to perform, and the dungeon master asks me to roll 3 performance checks throughout the night. I roll high on each one, with the lowest a 17 and the highest an unnatural 21. I also get the charm effect on Nathir's Mischief, and encourage everyone to be liberal about tipping myself, and the bar staff and security. A tiefling child asked if he can play with my character at one point, and the kid has a lute that's beat up and only has one string. The audience is reacting poorly to him playing, so I hand him my kite, which was gifted to me by my father figure 30 years ago, and say that he can play it if he promises to give it back. Our cleric also blesses the kid so he'll play better. While performing, the dungeon master lets me use Mage Hand to try and snatch a coin purse, but an NPC notices and tries to start a fight. 2 party members escort him out, and I feel like if a brawl is going to happen, we can try to make money off of it, so I urge everyone to go outside and place bets on who will win. The fight ends up fizzling, so I snatch up the betting pools and make way for inside. When I get back to the stage, the dungeon master tells me that the kid is gone with the money and both my loot and his loot. One party member also discovers outside that 3 of the wheels and the storage compartment are missing from our carriage, and one of the doors was taken off and propped on the side. I asked multiple people who were still at the inn if they spotted the kid leaving, and despite only one exit, of course no one saw him leave. I told the DM that the loot was important to my character, and it was beaten up so it did not appear valuable. Yes, it was in better condition than the one that the kid had, but the kid seemed willing to give it back to me. I understand I was trying to take advantage of the greater situation, but we also had almost no money and no supplies after being robbed multiple times. So what was I supposed to do? The dungeon master also tried to make fun of the party for camping where we got robbed the first time, but there really wasn't an alternative for that either. And after all of that, my reward for performing and dealing with the chaos at the inn and trying to make lemonade out of lemons was 3 gold and 3 copper, which can buy F all in my DM's economy. There's also been difficulty in this group around players using the F slur and the N word multiple times. TLDR, the party has been robbed 6 times in less than 24 hours in game time. Important cargo, all of their food, money, spell components, and shiny objects were all stolen. The carriage was damaged, repaired, and then had pieces stolen, with the carriage driver missing. Our goblin friend was attacked and had food and supplies stolen. Ale was stolen from the bar, and a sentimental item important to my character and his personal mission, in addition to a portion of the money he made, was also stolen. It just feels like I may as well have rolled a murder hobo druid with no worldly attachments, with the way that this game is going. Yeah, it certainly sounds like the dungeon master had it out pretty bad for the party, with the way that all of that went down. In my opinion, it seems like the DM may have been using a rolling table for encounters, with the way that the party kept getting shafted. Also, the part at the end with the players using slurs and the combination with a DM that seems to have a DM versus player mentality. I think it may be time to find a new table for OP. Let's move on. Other player doesn't understand how boobs work. By Reddit user Maruman. When I started university, I decided to join my local D&D group, keen to make new friends. I show up, get talked through character creation, and join up for an adventure. There's me, an 18-year-old female, the DM, and 3 players, including our problem player. The first warning signs was the outfit. I live in the tropics, with an average temperature of 30 degrees then, and this 16-year-old kid is wearing a leather trench coat and a fedora. Oh my god, it's the meme. I was the only female in the group, but hey, I was kinda expecting that sort of player ratio, and so far, everyone had been really nice and welcoming, so it should be fine. Being female and boring, I chose to play a female character. I don't even remember what the adventure was about now, but it was fun. Problem player would often talk over other people, and could get pretty rules-leery, and he was very touchy about anyone seeing his dice rolls. But whatever, I'm having a good time. The problems begin as our characters fall through a portal, and the Dungeon Master asks us to roll fall damage. But then, out of nowhere, OP shouldn't roll damage, declared the problem player. Her breast would cushion her fall. I chuckle awkwardly at this, and respond, haha, no. Actually, breasts are pretty sensitive. They have, nerves and pain receptors. Now, a sensible person would probably just accept this. However, problem player was plagued with the inescapable desire to always be right. Somehow, this uncontroversial statement about my own anatomy spawned an argument, and there was nothing that I or the other people at the table could say to convince him that breasts are in fact part of the female body that can take damage. This argument seemed to go on, and in the end, I don't remember whether the DM made me roll damage or not, but at least the adventure was back on track. We fight the enemies that the DM presents us with, and soon enough, we find ourselves back in the local tavern, celebrating our success. It was an excellent first adventure, despite the weirdness a little earlier. But alas, the weirdness was not over. I roll to seduce OP's character, says problem player. I respond with, you can't seduce her, not realizing that this is a gross overstepping of boundaries. And looking for an excuse, I continue, you can't seduce her because my character already has a girlfriend. She's dating, the barmaid. I then BS some background for my newly invented girlfriend, who I decided to name Beyonce because why not? Everyone shares a laugh over my naming choice, we end the session there, and I go home thinking that I had a good time, even though problem player was kind of weird. Problem player proceeds to spend every moment of in-game downtime over a semester's worth of games, either trying to seduce my character, or invite himself into a threesome. Eventually, he declared that Beyonce had cheated on my character with him, which, I'll be honest, I'm still kinda upset about. The rest of the members of the local club were fine to play with, and I ended up making some great friends there. But still, it was pretty awkward having to actively avoid sitting near one of the club's regulars, for fear of having him try to hit on me or my character. Yeah, I can imagine it would be annoying to be the only female player in a game of Dungeons & Dragons, and constantly have the "Milady Fedora" meme trying to hit on you or your character. Plus, it showed his mental age when he stated that OP's character's girlfriend cheated on her with his character in-game, after countless attempts to quote-unquote ship their characters together. But hey, at least it sounds like OP made some longtime friends out of the whole ordeal though. Let's move on. Dark Sun One-Shot Ruined Within 5 Minutes by Reddit user More Than From No Fall. In 2005, I was graduating college, and we had a senior week after final exams when all of the seniors remained in town and on campus, if they wanted, to party. I decided to run a Dark Sun one-shot for my friends. My 4 female roommates and 2 guys we had known throughout our 4 years there. Only myself and one other girl had ever played before, but everyone was excited. I met with each player individually to work out their characters. It was 2nd edition, so no individual session zeros would have been extra cruel. I prepared comprehensive campaign notes, 30 pages with several maps, and it seemed like it would be really cool. We open in the gladiator slave pens, the Dark Sun equivalent of a tavern for starting scenes, on the night of their planned escape, and they encounter a new slave girl who had just been brought in that day. Before anyone else can even speak, one of the guys deadass says, "I'll rape her." I'm like, what? And the dude repeats himself. Why? Everyone at the table is completely horrified. He comes back with, "I'm evil." So I just have a random lightning bolt strike his character dead, even though they were underground. And I ask him to go. He does, but the game was already completely ruined. I better never have a worse horror story than this. We weren't even drunk yet. But I imagine they were later. But seriously, good on OP for kicking that guy out right off the bat. I wish more stories ended this way, though it does suck that it ruined the game for the rest of the night. And hopefully, OP doesn't ever get a horror story. Let's move on. As a DM, how to work with a mysterious player character that doesn't talk and isn't interested in anything in the world. By Reddit user, Budasaurus. Hello, I'm looking for tips on how to best work with one of my players. I have some experience as a player, but this is my first time being a dungeon master in a campaign of my own making. I have 5 players total that each know each other. Each sent me a little backstory about their characters that I asked for, mostly their background and motivations in life, and everyone is hyped to play. One experienced player asked for a more unique start of the campaign than just meeting in a tavern or prison, which I was happy to comply with. I decided to start a smaller session with just 2 players to introduce them to the world and each other, and to finish making their characters. We're all friends, and everything was going fine, until we started playing. One of these friends was amazing and smart, which was great. However, the other one was very difficult to work with. Her character had a fairly tragic backstory, with a murdered family, and described herself as few words and slow to trust someone. I said that's fine. I don't mind her being mysterious. Just let her play the way she wants. I had no idea that this would literally mean my character won't say a single word in a 6-hour session. It was her and another friend on the first session, and her character only communicated in facial expressions. I felt bad for my other friend, who was forced to handle all the actual roleplay conversations, despite my silent friend's character being way more suitable to do so, according to their background. 3 times in total, something happened around them that screamed, "Hey, here's your adventure," and 3 times she just said, "No," and went the other way. A blue light pierced the night sky, and something heavy fell to the forest just 500 meters from their camp, and she just went to sleep. I created a friendly NPC specifically for her that has answers about her tragic past, and was meant to point her somewhere. She passed the check and recognized him, and the NPC spent the night at their camp. Yet she completely ignored him and did not ask a single question. I'd like to be a good DM and try to make a world that fits my players' fantasies. I don't want to force them to play a certain way or make decisions for them. However, I always thought that at some point, even us as players have to make decisions that push the story one way or another. I know that things won't always go as I expect, but I'm afraid that I don't have enough experience to make the game interesting for a player that ignores everything that I offer. To be honest, I spent hours creating custom maps and battlegrounds, writing lore and NPCs, and loved every minute of it. But playing with a friend who isn't interested in any of it somewhat killed my drive to do it. Does anyone have a similar experience? Please, what is a good way to encourage my player into actually engaging with the world, while still respecting her roleplay? Maybe she's just shy to roleplay, though outside of the game she talks too much. And I'm afraid it's going to be even harder once the other players join in the next session. Yeah, I can see how that can be a challenging situation to deal with being a new DM and all. Like OP said, perhaps she's just shy about roleplaying, even though she's a talker in real life. I would say just talk to her about it, and if that's the case, let her know that she can always roleplay in a third-person style, like saying my character does this or says that. That would give her a little bit of detachment. And I would bet that after she sees the other players roleplaying, that there's a high chance that she could take their example. I would also let her know that she is free to roleplay as she wants, but that it's a cooperative story game, and her not taking any of the threads that are laid out for her character kinda puts a hamper on things. So yeah, I think the main way to fix this is just to talk to her. Though, what would you all suggest? But that is all I have for you today. As always, I appreciate all of you, and may your games remain horror story free. Until next time.